Hello, everyone. The book we're going to be talking about today is actually 3 novellas in one. And these stories got to me, man. They crawled their way into my brain and would not let go their little hooks out of my subconscious for a while. And I'm going to talk about all that in a minute. But first, I want to let you know that my book of short horror stories, called The Things That Happen at Night, is available at the link in the description for only $3. And if you buy it, I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get on with the video. All right. So the book we're going to be talking about today is a mouthful. It's called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Larocca. I've been hearing about this book for a while. I've avoided spoilers all this time because I had it in my TBR. But it's just, I have so many books in my TBR, I never know where to start on next one. Sometimes there's too much. I want to start something, but I just can't decide, But I finally got the chance to read it, and I want to say, first of all, that this book is going to be released in the early part of September. So next month, I can't remember if it was the 4th or the 14th, but sometime within the first half of September. But down below, there is a link so you can pre-order this book, and man, I highly recommend you do. This is a book of 3 novellas. And I'm going to mainly focus on the first one, which is the title story for this book. But that does not mean that the other 2 are just throwaways or B-side or something he added in at the last minute, because those other 2 are very much worthy of being standalones by themselves. But all 3 of these stories are just psychologically terrifying. Okay, you're not going to see a lot of blood. You're not going to see a lot of supernatural creatures or monsters. But not all horror has to have those elements, because as I'm going to talk about, as particularly that first story, you can get a good case of the scares. You can get a good case of the creeps in the fewest amount of words. And that is a gift, I'm telling you. You could read this book in one sitting, all 3 stories. It's not that long. I think most people could. But after I read that first story, I couldn't start anything else. That's how effective that's what the effect was for me when I read it. It was just, there was a lot for me to unpack in my mind because it really got to me, like I said, in a good way, in the way a horror book really should. But all of these stories deal basically with our human need to connect with other people or things, or reconnect with something from our past. We especially in this age of advancing technology, we make connections online, sure. We have these superficial kind of interactions with each other, and that's not always a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because I've met in real life a lot of great, nice people that I wouldn't have if not for first being introduced on, social media or YouTube or something like that. But our need to connect can sometimes lead us to some very dark, creepy places. And the thing I loved about that first story, the title story, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, was that there is no real narrative in this story. We're not getting inside the minds of the characters. We're not seeing what they do when they're not, and I'll explain what they're doing here in a minute. But when they're not online, we don't see what they do. We don't get a lot of backstory except what's revealed, what these 2 characters reveal to each other during the course of the story. And basically, a woman puts an ad in an online post. She puts an ad trying to sell an antique apple peeler that has survived generations in her family, and it has a very quaint family connection. And believe it or not, this author has taken that concept, that first thing we read about, and he made it into something that is so freaky, so creepy, so psychologically terrifying, that at the end, like I said, man, that story got to me, sunk its claws right into my subconscious, wouldn't let go. Gave me the goosebumps, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up and all that good stuff. And I think what made it effective is that we are reading emails and instant messages from two people, and that's all we are doing in this story. Like I said, there's no narrative. We don't know any other thing about these two people except their correspondence. They never meet in person this whole time, and yet, because they connect and because they have this, they build a friendship. They start revealing things about themselves, really things that you might not even reveal to people you actually know, because you do have the anonymity of being online and being able to disconnect from that if you want. But they start having a relationship of sorts. And as this relationship builds and more of each other are revealed to the other one, things take a very dark, disturbing, creepy turn that will raise the hairs on the back of your neck. I'm telling you, it was. And I think the reason for that, why for me, the creepy factor in this one was so high and really set the bar for psychological horror, was that because you're only reading emails and instant messages between two people, it almost felt wrong as the reader, if you know what I mean. It felt like I was reading somebody's diary, and I wasn't supposed to be. Because we're just getting we're seeing what they're writing to each other and nothing else about them. And I almost felt guilty at times watching this. But just as in the example I said, if you were reading somebody's diary and all of a sudden you got to a juicy part, even though you know it's wrong to continue reading that, you probably would. Curiosity will get the best of you. And yes, my rational mind knows this is a story. These are just two characters made up from the author's mind. But he does it so well that you can't help but feel, oh, this is somebody's private conversation. Like I'm a hacker and I got these emails. I got these instant messages from them. And, people are used to seeing me or knowing that I sit here and read for hours sometimes on end. And, the phone rings, somebody comes over, and you got to, you're interrupted, and you just got to go do things in real life, unfortunately, sometimes. But this time was different, because whenever I would get interrupted, I would just put the phone down as if I was caught doing something I shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Because that's how much I was into this story, and like I said, I felt like I was intruding on these people's lives. But it escalates and keeps escalating, and you are never going to think of the term, what have you done today to deserve your eyes, without being freaked out. If somebody came up and said that to me right now, I would run away in fear. And when you read this book, you're going to find out why that is. But it's just so effective, this the way he communicates these thoughts and feelings. And how it almost feels like a natural progression from normal and nice to creepy and dark and disturbing. And it just feels like such a natural transition for these two people that, oh man, I'm telling you, after that first story, I couldn't start the other ones until the next day. Because that's how effective it was. But that, like I said, that's not to say the other two novellas are not just as effective. We have one about we live in a world in this story where science has proven conclusively, beyond any doubt, that there is no life after death. No God, no heaven, no hell, no life after death, which has caused a huge increase in suicides worldwide. And it's about a family and what they do with that information and how it affects them. And again, things just go way off kilter. And at the end, your jaw will be hanging open. And then the third novella deals with a man meeting his immigrant neighbor for the first time in an innocent bet. Again, this need to connect with people, this need to connect even with people you don't know and make a good impression and put your best face forward. These inherent feelings we all have, and in this story, that turns into something truly terrifying for one of these men. And I can't wait for you to read about that one either. This whole book is fantastic. I loved it. That first story will get you right in the good old horror gut there, like a good old punch to the midsection, knock your wind out, and it will leave you thinking. These stories will stay with you long after you read them. It is a fantastic book, and you definitely need to read it. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, there is a pre-order link down below for this book. You can pre-order it through Amazon. And look at that cover. Huh? Look at the cover. Yeah, get the hard copy. Get the hard, yeah. Don't get the Kindle edition because that's going to look good on your shelf. That's all I'm saying. And also down below, I have links to my social media for Twitter and Instagram if you want to join me on there. I really hope you do. And also my book of short horror stories, The Things That Happen at Night. That's down below if you want to purchase that as well. And as always, thank you for taking some of your time and spending it here with me. I really, really appreciate you guys watching. I say that every video because I mean it every video, so thank you. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.